Okay, I have my trusty meat tenderizer in front of me since I do not have a gavel at home. So I will call the electronic regular meeting to order. You okay, Ellen? We have 6 members present.
Yes, I just think it's hysterical.
We have 6 members present, and I believe Trent is going to put a flag on the screen for us. All right, I see the flag. Will you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
For which it stands,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
under God.
Thank you. I bet not many people have said the pledge in rounds before, but it worked for us. I want to welcome everyone to our meeting, and I will begin with introductions of the board members and the administrator. I'm Kathy Becker, and I'm the board president. Vince?
I'm Vince Greiner from Hart.
Pat?
Pat Collins.
Mark? Is Mark there?
Mark Forner, trustee.
Thank you. Ellen?
Ellen Kearns, trustee.
Thank you. And Jim Dittmer, are you joining us by phone?
Go ahead, Jim.
Try to get Jim Dittmer, trustee.
Thank you very much. All right. We will begin with a motion to approve the agenda to accept the agenda as printed. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, motion is made and
So
supported. Because this is an electronic, Tracy, do you have that?
I have Collins made the motion, but support, there were 2 people. So who was support?
Mark was
I
first.
believe it was Jim. Okay, Mark.
Mark.
Mark? Okay.
Collins and Mark.
Thank you.
All right.
Got it.
Because this is an electronic meeting and it's going to be difficult to tell who is voting or who is not, each one of our motions will be approved or disapproved with a roll call vote this afternoon. So I will begin that starting with Collins,
Yes.
Dittmer,
Yes.
Forner, Mark, is that a yes?
So you gotta help me out here. What's the protocol? Am I gonna stay unmuted the whole time?
No.
How do we want to do this?
When we have a roll call or when you want to speak, then go ahead and hit your
I
unmute.
really don't want to speak, Kathy. I don't want to speak at all.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks,
Sure.
Mark.
Okay.
Vince,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
the chair votes yes. Motion carries. Dr. Jeffrey, do we have any written communications from the public this evening?
We have no written communication at this point.
Okay, thank you. We have some citizens joining us. Does anyone have any comments they would like to address to the board at this time? I don't hear any, so hearing none, we will move on. The first item is approval of our consent agenda. This afternoon, it consists of payment of bills, minutes of our regular meeting, a resignation of Jen Orton and Terry Stye, acceptance of acceptance of 2 grants. Someone here to make that motion?
So
Move
moved.
to, and I'll support that.
Okay, Ellen and Vince? We'll begin with Collins,
Yes.
Dittmer,
Yes.
Jim? Yes?
He
Warner?
said yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mark,
Yes.
Vince,
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Motion carries. Dr. Jeffrey, do you have an informational update for us today?
I do. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Give me the high sign if for some reason you can't. I wanted to start out and wish Jim Dittmer a happy birthday. Jim has had a birthday between the time that we were last together and today. So happy birthday to Jim. I just wanted, in terms of my report, I just wanted to give a little update and touch on a few of the many things that have transpired during the closure. You know, certainly with 60 pages of supporting documents attached to our board agenda, there's a lot of detail in there that I won't be sharing verbally with the board, but it has been an incredibly different and an incredibly time for all of us at West Shore ESD. We're in our third month of the stay home, stay safe order or the school closure. During that time, there have been at least 75 executive orders pertaining to this from the governor's office, at least that I could find online as I was working my way through those preparing for the meeting. There have been at least another 55 memos of direction or guidance from the Department of Education. So we've had a lot of that type of information to work through as a staff and as a team. We have reviewed and approved and certified 9 continuity of learning plans on behalf of our local school districts. In addition, we have submitted one of our own. And our staff are really doing a tremendous job in terms of connecting with parents. And I wanted to share just some of the data that we've collected. To this point, this is up through the end of last week. We've had over 4,200 student or parent contacts made by members of our special education staff, so instructional staff and ancillary staff. In career and technical education, 62% of our students are fully participating in at-home learning right now. As defined by the staff, 27% of our students there are partially participating, and we have 11% who are not participating. And I think a number of those students are seniors from districts who have opted to finish the year, which is something that is certainly within their ability to do so. And we've had almost 1,500 contacts from GSRP with students and families, and that's within about the last 2 weeks. So there's quite a bit happening, you know, in terms of continuation of learning and continuation of services. This past Friday, as you know, we honored 27 ASM Tech students with our first ever electronic graduation, and the ceremony was very well done. So hats off to Paula and Dale and everyone the ETA, everyone who contributed to that. Friday, we conducted a briefing with about 90 staff members on our strategic plan relative to the organizational health goal. That was really cool. It was an optional meeting, and to have almost 100 in attendance, I think says a lot about our team's interest in where we're headed as an organization. Couple other notes here. I'm trying to get through this. Wanted to talk briefly about the ETA and how that group has really risen to the challenge. And today's meeting is a good example of the additional support that we've asked for from them, you know, given the closure and the learning at home order. They've done a fantastic job. They have developed several web pages for us to support this. They've developed several for the district, and they've put on 8 or 9 different kinds of dedicated professional development to support this, in addition to, you know, hundreds of service tickets. And I know that data is actually connected to Carrie's report in your packet. But they've just done a tremendous job. As you probably know, last week the governor rolled out Michigan's Safe Start Plan, and this is something that we're looking at in anticipation of next year and what might happen with the school district. I think everyone is probably aware that that plan identifies 6 different phases with this pandemic that we're working through. And we're currently right now in what they call phase 3. That is the flattening phase. Means that we're beginning to get our arms around this as a state, at least according to the information in the plan. In the next phase, the improving phase, remote learning continues, and some summer programs could operate in small groups. I'm not certain whether we will actually get to that by the time our summer programs start, but that's something that we're paying very, very close attention to. Now, the 5th phase of the plan, that's called the containing phase. That's the part of the plan where we would actually go back to school. Live teaching would potentially return with social distancing, with face coverings, and with groups of limited size. So that's what we're really anticipating, making it to that point, so that we can begin to return to something that's close to normal. Now, there was a 15 or 20 page report that the governor's office put out, and when you dig into that report, there's just some takeaways that I wanted to share with the board. One is the plan doesn't speak to some things that we're going to have to handle, things like transportation, things like how what type of supports we might need to have in place with some of our more intense special education programs. And the plan also includes a regional approach to reopening. So it is possible that we begin the school year with some schools in the state returning to something that's fairly close to normal with some safeguards, and other schools in the state continuing to be online. The plan is regional, and right now we are in Region 2, which is the Grand Rapids region. And as you think about the differences between life in Oceana, Lake, and Mason County, life in Kent County, that has, caused a few questions to be generated in my mind and in the mind of my colleagues that are superintendents. I've reached out to the governor's office and asked, directly if there might be consideration, for opening within those regions, given the differences, between places like ours and areas that are a little bit more urban. So we will keep you posted on that, but I just wanted to share that information has come out recently. It's something we're just beginning to work through, but it is a good jumpstart for us in terms of attempting to plan for what things might look like next year. And I don't know that I mentioned it, and I probably should have, but movement between those phases, the 6 phases that were identified by the governor, really has to do with the number of cases, the ability to trace the number of cases, and the capacity of folks in the medical care industry to handle things. Those are kind of some of the benchmarks for that movement. So I apologize for being so long-winded. That's what I have, but I will certainly answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, Dr. Jeffrey, we're in Region 2. Is this a different region specific to COVID-19 coverage, or is this our educational region of some sort?
Yeah, great question. It is our region as it connects to COVID-19. We are in Region 3 for as far as MASA and MAISA goes, a couple of our professional associations. So it is specific to the plan to potentially reopen our state that the governor's office has put out. Great question.
Are there any others? I do want to add to Dr. Jeffrey's comments about the ASM Tech graduation for those of you that may not have been able to attend. It was very well done, and we certainly want to thank Paula and the rest of the staff for the job they did. I'm sure it meant a lot to the students to be able to have that experience. So please thank them for us. We'll then move on to educational service updates. Amy?
Kathy,
Sure.
is it one thing I really need to do, and I skipped right over it in my notes. I just wanted to mention that in addition to all of those family contacts and student contacts that our staff have made, they've done a really incredible job of reaching out to districts and attempting to provide some, emotional support for their colleagues, and some of the signage and some of the other things that you are aware of from some of the board communication. I just wanted to mention because we have some staff that have joined us and they've just done an outstanding job. So thanks for just giving me a chance to pay them that compliment.
Absolutely. Very important. Other comments? If not, Amy, could we have the educational services update, please?
Yep. Hello, everyone. Wanted to first draw your attention. I know our last board report we submitted was labeled educational services. That's one example of the collaboration we're trying to continue between the CTE and the special ed and the instructional services department. So we picture going ahead with combining our reports because they all fall under those educational services. So we've combined our report. But a couple of things from my section. One of the first EOs or executive orders we were given, as Dr. Jeffries mentioned, was providing childcare, facilitating childcare for essential workers. And that took a lot of time and work to figure that out. The good news is we did not quite get the numbers in this area of COVID patients and the overwhelming of the healthcare and essential workers. So that remained manageable, knowing that in the future that could change, but some things are in place. As you can see, we've had 13 referrals, and you can see the breakdown there in your report. The rest of my report, I just broke into the mini departments within the instructional services team and just kind of highlighted things that have happened since the closure. A lot of the things would have occurred anyway, but there's also been a lot of things added to people's plates, as you know, with this. So a few highlights under the Great Start Collaborative. We've applied for funding, and hopefully that will continue with the budget uncertainty in the future. But the big thing is Sarah Jeruzel, who's our coordinator for that, has been representing, has been attending and representing the ESD at local community collaborative meetings almost weekly. So she attends them in Lake, Mason, and Oceana County each week, just to stay in touch and get a lowdown on what the community is doing fits with the ESD initiatives and vice versa. Our Great Start Readiness program was very busy, as all our local districts were, in the mandate to provide instruction to students, no matter if it's online or offline. So they wrote a continuation of learning plan. You can see there distributed material packs to all of our 306 students. A lot of those had to be done through mail, and you can see kind of the picture of the mail line there. We're very thankful to Perry and some others on the team for helping facilitate that, as well as the staff. And again, going back to the ETA work of the ETA, we've developed landing pages for preschool parents with lots of resources and things for them to use in this time, whether they're able to print those resources or just access them. It is supplementing the GSRP curriculum wonderfully. One of the great things about having the Connect for Learning adopted for the whole ESD last year is that all GSRP kids have the same curriculum. So it was much easier to coordinate activities and resources to get out to them because everyone was on the same Unit 5. So that was really nice. Like Dr. Jeffrey referenced, there's also been a lot of outreach to our GSRP families, and as of last week, there have been almost 1,500 contacts to those parents. So our 31N grant, which is our social workers, our general ed social workers, created and also with the special ed social workers and others, a Bolstering Brains social emotional newsletter that's been going out to locals. They are facilitating some book studies along with other members of the staff, including, I think, Miss Becky Skiba, who's on the call today. So, right, Becky? And they're also undergoing a training right now for teletherapy. That is something that they have been allowed to do. They wanted to get trained in that to do best practice, and they'll be implementing it. In fact, they are implementing it on a small basis right now to work out the kinks with some families they have close relationships with before expanding that. And then our educational consultants, we are hosting every other week principals meetings, which are very well attended. I think the principals are appreciative of the ability to get together and kind of collaborate and talk about issues that this crisis has brought about. And then there's a lot of work going into planning for the summer and the fall and how to take the learning and the professional learning we had planned and convert it to an online format, which is a lot more tricky and difficult in terms of engagement and logistics, as you know from our board meeting today. So a lot of time and effort going into that. And then the last thing on my report is we're just asking for the acceptance of the Ready for K app, a grant that's fully paid for, so no cost to the ESD. I hope you approve it because we've already implemented it for over 400 families. And we have sent 1,700 texts so far to parents regarding best practice and things for parents with little ones at home. So any questions for me?
Anyone have any questions for Amy? I just want to reassure you, Amy, that we did approve that grant under our consent agenda. So you're good to go.
Good to know.
Thank you. We'll move on to our special ed update. Kim?
Good evening. My report starts on page 13, and I just got my dog under control so I could do this. We have a couple of new hires. First one is a speech language pathologist, Cte Enrollments, and she actually interned with us a couple of years ago, so she's a familiar face. And we also have April Beckman, who would be a special education supervisor. We're looking at a start date of July 1, given the current circumstances, and so that she'll have time to finish out things at Hart Public Schools, where she's a special ed coordinator. In addition to new hires, we have school bus purchase, 2 of them, and the quotes for those were in your packet. Little bit over 100,000 for each of those. They are part of our regular rotation schedule based on years and mileage, repairs, those kinds of things. And they were already in our 5-year financial plan. We also have the school bus repair from the accident last January over Lake County, I think it was. The only cost for us is the $700 tow bill, and the insurance company already sent the check for $29,000 and whatever. So we just need to then pass that money along to the repair shop. And over on page 14, I put in a couple of pictures for you of special education happenings. I think a lot of times we see teachers doing their Zoom and Google Meet conferences, but it's kind of interesting when you think about things like physical therapy, occupational therapy. So there's a good one of Kathy. I thought it was a real baby, and I wondered why she was going out to homes, and then I discovered it was a doll. And then Pam Genoviak also just working with students, just kind of creative, interesting ways they're finding to meet the needs of the students that we have the contingency learning plans for. And again, I think Dr. Jeffrey already touched on the data we've been collecting on that for parent and student contacts. Any questions for special ed?
Kim, I just wondered why on the bus purchase, one was with air conditioning and one was without.
So we do have some students that in their IEP, it does, they do require to be in a certain temperature range. You can see it's more expensive to have a bus with air conditioning. So some were able to have without air conditioning, and then others we can.
Okay. I just wondered why we didn't just, I understand the cost difference, but then if we would get a child, you know, on someone's route that doesn't have air conditioning, you know, we would have to switch everything around then, right?
Yeah, for the most part, for the for the control of the temperature with, usually the glass is kind of tinted, like it seems to be okay typically
Okay.
for our routes. It's not a need in all of them. We
Great.
have enough that we're able to cover it just fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone have any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we will move on and I will entertain a motion that we approve the purchase of the 271 passenger special needs buses from Hoekstra Transportation not to exceed $217,670.
So moved.
Support.
Also,
I'll
Motion's
support.
Motion's
Okay.
made and supported. Tracy, do you have it?
I have Forner made the motion, Collins supported.
Okay. Then we will begin voting. Collins?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Is this for fall delivery, I'm assuming?
Yeah, October or November, if they're approved tonight, and then we put the order through, by the time they're built, Trina expected October or November delivery. So thanks for bringing that up. I meant to tell you that.
Okay. Other discussion? All right, we'll proceed with voting then. Pat?
Yes.
Jim, can you hear us? Mr. Dittmer?
Okay, that was my fault. I had him on mute. Go ahead, Jim.
Yes.
Thank you. Mark?
Sorry, Jim.
Yeah.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion carries. The next motion that we need is to approve the payment to West Shore International for the bus repair not to exceed $29,561.18.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and supported. Is there any discussion? We'll begin voting. Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, motion carries. Dale, are you there with our career and technical education update?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, and good evening. My portion of the report begins on page 15. I had detailed some items in there of our CTE teachers and how they responded to the continuity of learning plan. I'm proud of their creativity with trying to continue a career in technical education remotely with kids in their home. I think they've done a nice job. As Dr. Jeffrey reported, we've had almost 90% of students partake in some way, shape, or form. About 60% of students, continually engage, and that's pretty good, especially under conditions where students don't necessarily have to do that to attain a greater credit. So we're pretty happy with that. I know teachers are concerned now that student interest is starting to wane as we move on in May, but we're trying to keep them engaged and wrap up the year in a good way. I think the important thing to remember about this experience is that we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about what might be possible to do remotely, what we can support online, the kinds of study that students can do online towards certain certifications for employment or career readiness type of skills. There's quite a bit we can do, and so we need to learn from that and be ready to apply it in case we need it in the fall, because we're facing the very real possibility that we may have to begin that way in the fall. Well, we won't know for a while, but we're starting to prepare and starting to think that way. So I'm proud of my teachers for how they responded. Secondly, I'll note that we have concluded our interviews for an agri-science instructor, and we're going through the process to finalize that situation, and we will have a recommendation for you at the next board meeting, and we're very happy with the outcome. Our Cte enrollments for next year, we're going to know that real soon here. The area counselors agreed that this Friday, the 15th, would be the day that they would supply us with all their requests for CTE classes for next year. So by next week, we'll have a pretty good grip on what their initial requests are, and we're looking forward to looking at that. I would expect that demand for CTE classes will be high, given the current situation, but we'll see how that pans out. We've got a good grip on that. Also want to thank our construction trades and instructor Aaron Tarsa for his continued advocacy for his students. You'll notice in the report, he submitted 3 names nominated for the Michigan Construction Teachers Association scholarships, and all 3 of those students won $500 awards. Fatima Guerra from Shelby, the Higher Achiever Award, Jacob Krashevich from Manistee, entering the trades, and Ian Tebow from Ludington for continuing education. So good job to Aaron and all those students. And I believe those were the students that Aaron brought to the board meeting to highlight their activities recently, early in the year. Thank you for recognizing the ASM Tech virtual graduation. That exceeded our expectations, I think, for how that turned out. Certainly Paula Mull deserves a lot of credit, but also our own K-12 ETA, Chad Riffle, deserves an awful lot of credit, because only a week before that event, Paul and I had been talking about, gee, it would be nice to mark the passing of this day for these students and honor their achievements. Let's try to do something. And what we had planned, was fairly informal. And then she got talking to Chad Riffle, who said, we can do way better than that. We can stream this on YouTube. We can orchestrate this. We can do the whole 9 yards. And then Paula responded and wrote great scripts for the students. And so we're immensely proud of that. And thanks to all those folks. Lastly, we are seeking the approval to purchase the dumping hopper, which I see Dr. Forner is asking about. What that is a large piece of equipment. It's a big scoop that attaches to the forks of a forklift that you can use to clean the sand from the water jet cutter that they have in the mechatronics and welding facility. Right now, they're doing that by hand with shovels and buckets, and they would like to procure this kind of equipment, this piece of equipment. It's also something that the West Shore Community College folks would appreciate that we have. So we did a competitive bidding process on that piece of equipment, and there was no advantage given to the low bidder in this situation. With that, that's my report, and I'll pause for questions.
All right. Anyone have any questions for Dale about his report? No. I do have to say that the board members are learning something too, because I didn't know that cutting up a chicken was called fabricating until I went on to Mrs. Garcia's YouTube video and watched her do that. So we appreciated learning something new too. If there are no other questions, then I will ask for a motion to approve the low bid with Powers Industries for the dumping hopper with a price not to exceed $950.
I'll move to purchase the dumping hopper, especially since it's not a murder hornet.
I'll support.
Motion is made and supported. Any discussion? We'll begin voting. Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Oh, yeah, we gotta have that.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen? Ellen? Ellen, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And the chair votes yes.
Yes, I did.
Motion carried.
Yes.
We've got you.
I'm watching my
All right, motion
Baltimore
carries.
Orioles, so I'm
A little distracted, are we?
out here, yes.
Understandable. Carrie, do you have a business office update for us?
Yes, Madam President, I do. So first of all, Jason and Dale have already mentioned the ETA, and I've highlighted a few of those activities as well, where on the first page of my report, page 31. But really what I want to point out to you related to the ETA is on page 51. So this is the survey that Dr. Jeffrey had mentioned. This information was prepared by our local school districts and submitted to the state. And this was at the inception of the school closure, the state trying to get an idea of where our technology gaps might be within our region. So we just thought that it would be important for you guys to also know and understand where we're at, that current situation or current condition related to technology within our local school districts as well. You also have probably heard about some, they're calling them ESSER funds. It's the Elementary and Secondary Emergency Relief Funds. And those funds, at this point in time, it's being advocated to us from the Michigan Department of Education that those funds might be utilized to help fulfill that gap. That technology gap, whether it's devices, internet, et cetera. There certainly are lots of other activities that are allowed under that grant funding, but that was, one thing that the Michigan Department of Education is advocating for. And I have included, we'll see that in just a few minutes, I've included what that grant funding looks like thus far in our region too. So if I can draw your attention back to page 31, I've mentioned, or I've provided just a little bit of information of the census update. You know that we've been on that advocacy committee, and of course the closure has kind of impacted that as well. It seems like the response rate is down a little bit. We typically lag within our region, but it's down overall. But nationally, Michigan is doing better nationally, as you can see in these numbers. So just if you can advocate to your folks in your communities, your respective areas to complete the census, there's a lot of information online available on, how to complete it as well. So if anyone needs any of that information, just, you can just Google completing the census online and locate that information. Dr. Jeffrey has talked about the COVID-19 and some of the impacts, and I just wanted you to know that we are studying very closely, the CDC guidelines, OSHA, in communication with the district health department number 10 as well. So, we're continuing right now to implement some protocols in place as they stand right now, and then trying to prepare for what it might look like as well when we return back to school. So just wanted you to know that, we're certainly studying that and studying the governor's plan as well to make sure that we're doing whatever we can for the safety of our students and our staff. Moving on to page 32, you'll recall it last month. Oh, excuse me. No, we skipped last month's meeting. The prior month, we had some conversation about Gateway to Success Academy and their charter contract. I did not have any inquiries from any of the board members between this time and last, so I'm recommending that contract for approval this evening. Additionally, moving down a little bit further, the collaborative business services contract. So these are, the contracts with our 3 local school districts that are highlighted here. And really it's a collaboration of our staff that provides those services. So predominantly, it's Martha Baker and Brandy Highbar that provide those services to our local districts, but certainly it's really a combination of a lot of our team members depending on the needs. So if there's grant needs, for example, Christine might step in. If it's something budget related, I might step in. So it's really our whole business office team that provides those collaborative services to our local districts. And it's just a continuation of the previous contracts that we've had. And then moving on to the next section. So I'm going to try to summarize this as much as I can because there's a lot of information here. So First of all, most of this information comes from various meetings that Dr. Jeffrey and I have participated in, and also from some of the discussions with our local business officials as well. I've continued to meet with them weekly throughout the closure virtually and try to identify what some of their concerns or needs or what our communication, message might be out into the community as well. And so that's, the reason for developing this information. So the first at the bottom of 32, and I apologize the way that pie chart flowed onto the next page, they were really supposed to be side by side. But the idea of that pie chart was just to give you guys an idea of, the impact for West Shore ESD in regards to how our funding comes to us. We are much more reliant on local property taxes versus state aid, which is, what most of our locals are reliant upon unless they're out of formula. And so just to give you an idea, I've included at the bottom of 31, if we were looking at a proration right now, just based upon everything that we're hearing, we're anticipating if it were similar to fiscal year 2008, that we would be at approximately $224,000 proration for this year. Not sure what that's going to look like though. So, we don't want to hang our hats necessarily on those numbers. Moving down to the next 33 and 34, really I want to highlight at the top of 34, the state's budget. What we're hearing right now at this point in time, which is right below that pie chart at the top of 34, is the shortfall in 20 and 21. We're not sure at this point in time what that will look like. I mean, you've probably seen a lot of the economics that have been all over the news, and no one really knows because some of it depends upon the recovery of the economy and the timing of it as well. I just wanted to, let you guys know that at this point in time, certainly there are a lot of folks who are studying this. Dr. Jeffrey and I will pay close attention to the Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference, which is this Friday. And we hope to get more information from the state budget office at that point in time. Right now, if you look at the bottom of that page, we're hoping, I know lots of folks around the state are hoping that there will be some more federal stimulus dollars that will flow through to have that impact be, much lower of an impact on our local school districts. Because currently at this point in time, you can see at the top of page 35, they're estimating, there's been a few different numbers that I've heard Dr. Rice mention in the 600 range. And then the state budget office, they've indicated anywhere between $500 to $1,000 per pupil hit that might impact our local school districts. But some of that's dependent upon federal funding. So most of our local districts at this point in time are really hoping, and I guess statewide are really hoping for some kind of stimulus funds. If you look at the bottom of page 34, the bottom of 34 is the current estimated allocations that our local districts have received thus far. These are the ESSER funds I had mentioned earlier. So a little over $2 million have flowed through to our local districts already. So a lot more information for us to study, but just wanted to kind of give you a brief update about that. And then also talking about the budget amendments for next year, this year and next year. So, this year we normally do an April amendment because our meeting was canceled. We will have our June amendment, which, we should have a much better handle on our current finances at that point in time. And once we receive some more information this Friday, we'll start finalizing the revenues. We've already projected our expenditure side for 2021, but we'll start finalizing our revenues as well so that we're in good shape to have much further discussion with you in June. And that's it for me.
That was a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Ellen.
Anyone have any
Wow.
questions for Carrie about the business report?
Just a comment. Thanks, Carrie. That was a great report. It's hard pressed for me to try to find a whole lot positive about this this thing that we're experiencing. But one of the things I think that we can hang our hat on is that we anticipate, everything I read is that there's going to be a renewed push for the digitalization, that's easy for me to say, right? Rural internet. Because you talk about ultimately having our kids be disadvantaged based upon not only their social economic status, but also their geographic status. There seems to be a lot of push about trying to bring broadband and wireless to the our most remote region in the United States, and that's really big for our kids, big for our region. And I'm hoping to heck that actually happens politically. That's now a national conversation, because if we're looking at a prolonged closure, our kids are already at a disadvantage. If we can't open up again in the fall without giving them some type of appliance and some type of digital access. Corner out.
Thank you, Mark. Important information, and hopefully that will be some good that does come out of this unfortunate situation we find ourselves in. So, anyone have any other comments or questions about Carrie's report? Okay, hearing none we'll move on, and I will entertain a motion that we approve the business services contract with Hart Public Schools in the amount of $76,887 as presented.
So moved.
Ellen?
Yep.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion is made and supported. Any discussion? If not, we will begin voting. Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, motion carries. The next motion is to provide business service contract with Mason County Eastern School District in the amount of $48,974 as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion's made by Vince. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Pat. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll begin voting. Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion carries. The next is that we approve the contract with Pentwater Public Schools in the amount of $36,540 as presented.
I'll offer that motion.
Vince made a motion. And Pat supported. Is there any discussion on the motion? I'm sorry, what did you say, Dr. Jeffrey?
I said, so did Jim.
Oh, good. Any discussion? We'll begin voting. Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, motion carries. And then we also need a motion to approve the Gateway to Success Academy contract changes as they were presented to us.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Motion's made by Mark, supported by Vince. Any discussion? We will begin voting. Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, motion carries. Terry, are you there with a human resources update for us?
I am. Thank you, Pat. You have had the opportunity to read through it, and Dale and Kim Amy talked about our candidates, I believe. Those are both looking good. We're getting very close on the ag teacher and the literacy consultant. And also very fortunate to be talking to two psych interns for the possibility for next year, because we do have two openings. and they're looking very promising. And hopefully I can report on them next month that they're on board. They're highly sought after, so we have to wait and see if they actually select us. As far as the rest of the report, we have the resignation of Jen and myself. The new hires, as Kim discussed. Ironically enough, this is the second reading and adoption of the change in the bylaw so that we cannot meet through video and have it count. That will be for a motion for this evening, as we all know why we're doing that, as far as the trying to coincide with the Attorney General's opinion outside of executive orders. I also included some information about the true law policies. We are diligently working on those and hoping to have those for first reading very soon. Don't want to commit to an actual date. It's a little slower, kind of taking care of these things digitally. I supplied some information with regard to HR and the state of affairs that we are in with the closures, as well as an update on the workplace wellness. Final numbers, we are continuing with session 3 virtually, and we're getting a lot of participation, and it's kind of keeping us a little bit more together and in touch. So that's my report, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Terry?
Terry, on the change in our policy provider, do you anticipate having a policy committee meeting along with that at some point?
Yes. Yes, we are still currently having each of the assistant superintendents and directors looking at their sections, making those optional selections, which you'll be pleased to see once you get a hold of these in your hands, that there are not a lot of options. Broome has worked very hard, and they're actually tweaking a few things. We had a workshop, I think last week, and with 100 people in this workshop, came across a few things that they need to kind of tweak. So while they're tweaking those, and each of us are reviewing our sections, as soon as that is done, which I'm hoping next week sometime, we will then be scheduling a policy committee meeting, probably much like this, after I mail the packets out to those folks, and then on to the board.
Okay, other questions or comments? No. Thank you, Terry. And we, Ellen?
No,
Okay,
these are great reports.
absolutely. And we will be seeing your smiling face for a couple more meetings, Terry. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is the superintendent's evaluation. The board did meet in February to perform the evaluation, and I put all those together, and Superintendent Jeffrey did receive an overall rating from the Board of Education for the school year of highly effective. And his 3-year contract, we're looking to approve his 3-year contract and the salary structure. But based on Dr. Jeffrey's recommendation, I want to note that he had suggested that we not make any change in his salary structure right now, because as Terry reported to us just a little while ago, the budget uncertainty is still up in the air, and we are not anticipating at this time needing to hold back or not be able to meet our salary obligations. We're, very certain that we will be able to do that. But I think Dr. Jeffrey decided that it's better that we err on the side of caution rather than approve something that we might not be comfortable providing in the future. So, but we will retain then the right to adjust that contract and that salary at any time in the future, that after our budget is is firmer and we're more comfortable with that. So given that, I would entertain a motion that we adopt Superintendent Jeffrey's 2019-2020 highly effective evaluation rating and approve his contract for the period of July 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2023. Would anyone care to make that motion?
So moved.
Ellen, was that you?
Yes, it was.
All right, and support?
I'll support the motion.
And support by Vince. Any discussion?
Yeah, I've got a question.
You can ask
So-
a question.
Yeah, I got a question. So I'm very much in support of this, provided that guy is going to get out of his basement at some point before the termination of the 3 years. Right? I'm not comfortable paying some guy to sit in his underwear in his basement for 3 years. So, sorry.
And I want to see whose comment can top that.
Oh, shoot.
No, I see nobody has anything to add. All right. So we have a motion. Do we have support?
I'll support.
We have a
I
motion.
had
I think we're.
Vince supported.
I'm sorry.
Right, and you support it, and you second. All right. So we have a motion and support. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll begin voting. Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
One more time, Jim, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Mark?
You bet. Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Motion carries, and you're stuck for at least 3 more years, Dr. Jeffrey.
There you go.
Sounds like a good plan. Thank you.
It certainly does. All right. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the executive order compliance resolution as it relates to COVID-19. And I know that you have all had a copy of this and had an ability to discuss it with Dr. Jeffrey. Jason, do you want to give a little explanation in case anyone has, for our audience that is here that may not be familiar with that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. This is a resolution that allows us to comply with each of the executive orders and any of the directives from the Department of Education that are connected to the COVID-19 without having to rewrite our entire policy manual anytime we get one of those 150 plus messages that we talked about earlier. But it is temporary. And, transparency and communication is required. This would run through June 30th. So the thought is that at our next, meeting, if there was anything that we needed to discuss that was related to extending this, not doing this, that we could easily do that.
All right. So I will then entertain a motion that we adopt that compliance resolution.
So
I'll
moved.
offer the motion.
Support.
Okay.
Motion made by Vince and supported by Mark. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll begin voting. Pat?
Yes.
Tim? Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion carries. Dr. Jeffrey, do you have some recommendations for us this evening?
I certainly do. Our first recommendation is connected to some information that was in Kim's packet. And it is the recommendation to hire Cte Norland Pratt as a speech language pathologist. And of course, compensation for the position is in accordance with West Shore EA contract. Copy of the resume is in your packet. And just wanted to note that when we actually get to the motion, it is Nordland Pratt in terms of spelling of the last name. We had a quick typo that Tracy caught, and I just wanted to mention that to everybody.
Okay, thank you. So I will entertain a motion that we approve the employment of Cte Norland Pratt.
Jim made the motion.
Thank you, Jim. Is there
Support.
support? Pat supported. Any discussion? We'll begin voting. Pat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Vince?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion carries.
Okay, and the next one on the list is also connected to the special education department, and it is a recommendation to hire April Beckman as a special education supervisor.
Right, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll support the hiring.
Motion by Ellen and supported by Vince that we hire April Beckman as our special ed supervisor. Any discussion? We'll begin voting. Pat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Vince,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
chair votes yes, motion carries.
Okay, and then our next item is the second reading and adoption of the voting policy that Terry mentioned during her report, which seems a little funny given the timing and how we're having this meeting.
Yes, it certainly does. A bit ironic. So would someone care to make that motion?
I will offer the motion.
I'll support.
Motion is made and supported that the Board of Education adopt the Neola policy update to the bylaws. Any discussion? We'll begin voting. Pat,
Yes.
Jim? Mark,
Yes.
Vince,
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion carries. Other items to come before us this evening. I have a couple of comments. I want to thank Trent for setting us up with this for this meeting, because trust me, none of us could have done it on our own. So, and I do want to add to Dr. Jeffries and make sure that we thank him and our assistant superintendents and directors and our entire staff for the phenomenal job they have been doing during this crisis. I mean, we always get such high performances from our people, but this is just extraordinary work that has been done, and the care that they have demonstrated for all of our students is just phenomenal, and they certainly all deserve to be recognized for that. So I would like to, on behalf of the board, commend them for the efforts that they have put forth. Hearing no other business, meeting's adjourned.
Yeah, okay, Kathy, I'll just comment.
Sure.
I want to thank our staff as well, or echo your comments. And I want to congratulate Terry on her career change. We will miss you very much, and hopefully we will be able to do a proper person celebration before this is over. If so,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We
so.
we will make that happen. If
Thank you.
if it means in December we all have to drive
Yeah.
to the other side of the state, then
That's right.
That's what we will do. So.
Thank you.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all, and have a good night. And I hope we were meeting in person next time, but not so sure. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.
Okay, bye. Tracy, are you there?